What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about how to record single voiced instruments and make them sound like large arrangements. So why is this video important? Well, unless you play piano or guitar, you don't have ready access to chords, and chords provide you as a producer with a rich full sound as opposed to, just a single line of music, which is what we are used to playing as we are part of an orchestra. So if you don't have an orchestra at your disposal, you can easily create your own orchestra with your overdubs. It's a very powerful tool. So before we dive into the actual recording side of it, I want to talk about theory and the role it plays when you're doing overdubbing. If you play piano or guitar, you're used to chords, and you might not even think about voice leading. A lot of pop songs don't really think about good voice leading. But if you're looking for a distinct, refined, classical kind of sound, you really need to think about your voice leading. And there's a few rules to follow. There's a large variety of rules, but we're going to stick to a few, which is operate in thirds as much as possible, avoid parallel fifths, and then avoid parallel octaves. Let's see here. Basically, all you're trying to do is move voices by step. We're trying to avoid large leaps, and we should start with our bass note. So whenever you're planning out what chords you want to do, you want to start with your bass note, build from the bass note. If you want to do some cool inversions, think about what chords you want to go there and play the bass note accordingly, and then build your other notes. And what you'll want to do is have your bass note somewhere in the middle of your mix when you're panning, and then apply your thirds and your fifths to that chord left and right. And then the higher the pitch, the further away from the center you'll want to put it. All right. So let's go back over some of these theory ideas. If you took music theory in college, you already have an idea of what I'm talking about. If you did not, I highly suggest taking a fundamentals course on music theory. Music theory, again, I've said it in a past video, is like seeing the Matrix. Can you get by without it? Of course you can, but it's just a thing that makes your life so much easier as a musician when you could just listen to a chord and go, oh, these notes go there. These are my options. Or you can say, oh, this note would sound really cool here because I know it will based off of my prior history with the music theory within this key or whatever. And then you try it, and then obviously it gives you a leg up when you're deciding what notes to place, okay? In regards to thirds, if you have very basic music theory, a third is a skip away from a note. So let's say we're in the key of G minor, G, A, B flat. So 1, 2, 3. G to B flat is a third. And you can actually build that chord by going G, A, B flat, C, D. G, B flat, D. And that is your basic chord with the first, third, and fifth. And then from there, you can switch the tones around and create other chords that will come after that. Without further ado, you will listen to the excerpt that I made for you guys, and we'll talk more about it there. All right, guys, so recording and mixing, altogether this only took like an hour. It's not super long, but I work pretty quickly when I'm overdubbing, and I want to tell you right now, I'm not some theory genius. I'm not even really a composer. all I did was I followed the basic principles that we talked about with voice leading guidelines. And what I want to do is first start off with the bass note. And this is where I build everything. And in the beginning, you'll hear me, we're in G minor, by the way. I'm sure if you have if you're perfect pitch or whatever, you probably already heard that. But for us mere mortals, this is G minor. And what we're going to hear is G, because that's tonic. We start on tonic most of the time. And then it's going to go down to a C, which is acting as predominant, goes up to D, which acts as dominant, as the fifth of G, resolving back to G minor. But then the other voices have the things going on, but we'll talk about it later. So here, you'll hear it. And sorry for the clicking, that's my dog chewing something. So here you go, it's D, resolving back to G. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw in the other voice. So this is acting as the other middle tone, and you'll hear how it stacks. You just heard D to E, so you heard a fifth. And notice I didn't do any parallel fifths. I went up as a suspension to the E, and that's okay. And that's not exactly like Baroque counterpoint, whatever, but we're not doing that. This is modern music, and suspensions give suspense, right? You have a little bit of a lift in the note, and it also alludes to a changing in the chord, which you can deceive your audience if you don't go where they think that they're going to go, and that also leads into some other cool things you can do as a composer. But anyways, here, I'll let it play more. All right, so right here, this is going to C, and this went from E to F natural. Okay, so again, we're working by step, D, E, F. We're not doing any huge jumps, and so far, this is climbing. This is operating under your most basic chord theory, just root chord theory, you know, tonic, predominant, dominant, and we are allowing the other voices to kind of play with this eventually. I'll show you in a second. So it goes to G here. This goes to D. This goes up one more time to A. Now that actually sounded pretty happy. And you'll hear why that sounds happy, because we're actually going to do, this is operating in a harmonic minor, which is you raise the seventh to allow only a half step between the seventh and the tonic note, so F sharp to G, and that's a little bit of a mix of some major sounds going on there, which we then resolve back to a very sad G minor, gives some interesting flavor. A lot of classical compositions are in harmonic minor. A lot of times the seventh will be raised a half step to make the major seventh interval, but that's just typical voice leading because we're following these rules of least resistance and whatnot. So you'll hear, did you hear that? F sharp, G, and then that stacking as a third. And that's another rule as well. Whenever you're looking at chords, just think in thirds. Like, hey, I have this cool tone. Let me see if I can stack a third on top of it, or if I can go down a fourth below it. Think in terms of thirds, fourths, and fifths. If you're looking to add a chord, oftentimes add an interval, oftentimes you'll find you can come up with some really interesting stuff. So I'll add, let's actually just listen to this track. We really haven't shown it any love. We'll just listen to the bass in this track and see what they do. So that's an octave, and that's okay because we're not doing parallel octaves. Just stays on that G. F natural to E. Now, in G minor, I'm going down to the E and not E flat in order to give this major sound which the other notes are interacting with. So a lot of times when you're operating within a key, you don't have to strictly stay to that key. You can play around with the notes and raise some notes and lower some notes, and you'll get some nice mixture chords in there that adds interest. But what you should really consider is whenever you are resolving in a cadence, again, a cadence is where you're going from a fifth to a one. When you're resolving, you really need to honor the ideas and good voice leading guidelines so that you don't get something weird. A lot of times your ear will tell you what's weird and what's not. Again, these voice leading guidelines were not written by some stuffy old man saying, hey, this is how I want things done. You should do them this way. It was good music sounds like this because these rules are followed. Now, are rules meant to be broken? Yes. But before you break the rule, you should master that rule and understand why that rule is there. So let's just listen to this first half again and kind of listen to the major tones that get outside of the G minor. Hear that suspension? We're given some major sound here already. Here we go with some major sounds. This is almost operating in a different key, resolving back to G minor. Now, because we had all that happy but major stuff, we need to bring it back down to earth, and I have this descending D, C, B flat, A. I'm not doing B natural, I'm going B flat. I'm operating in G minor because I want the moodiness of G minor here. Now you'll hear the bass note go up one, it goes to E, and you'll hear the other notes kind of operate with that in order to give this this hopeful feeling. Again, I'm trying to give some mixed emotions here, and all I did was I played this E, and then I was like, how can I play with that and create some cool stuff? That's literally my thought process, just operating in thirds and fifths. Now here begins the cadence that we did over here again. It's going to go to the major seventh again. Da, ta, the F sharp. Now this last chord is going to be very consonant. No funny business in the last chord. We're operating in, like, the top note has an F natural that operates as the third of G. Wait, is that top note an F natural? What is that? Yeah, that top note isn't da da. No, G, G, A, B, C, D. Well, I don't even know. Hey, see, I'm not some like theory buff, whatever. I don't even know what I played there. But for the most part, you know, that last chord is not a whole lot of funny business. So again, just play around with this. If you have a single voiced instrument, I like minor keys to start off with. I feel like that's where my mood tends to go. And obviously major keys can do the same thing. And you can modulate to different chords by using this idea. You know, you don't have to stay in that key. You can move a note by step. And as long as you're moving by step and you're not doing a bunch of crazy leaps and you're operating underneath the voice leading guidelines, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff that you can make and you won't really fluff it up too much. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. If you want more content like this, let me know, and I'll be seeing you later.